Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. Welcome to yet another edition of Africa Discourse. I am Wilson Marshall. Today is all about what is happening in Senegal. Protests, protests, protests. Opposition rival haven't been so sought after because it's regarded as the shining star or the rising star. The person of Sanko, he was arrested for causing disturbance. All of a sudden, he was accused of rape, accused of corruption, and many Senegalese didn't take it down too well with them. It led to an uproar that has led to the death of some persons. Senegal right now is at the peak of trouble. What do you think Macky Sall, the president of Senegal, can do about this? My analysts in the studio will be able to throw light on this. I have a lecturer from Uniben, College of Medical Sciences, and of course a clergyman. Join me to welcome Honorable Frank Amego. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right. And we are expecting also a very vibrant youth. Yes, a vibrant youth. A political analyst. He's also in the academia. He operates an NGO, a human rights activist, the person of God Sent Osaye. When it comes into the studio, he will join us in the discussion because it's all about what is happening in the Ecowas region, and Senegal is part of it. What do you have to say about what is happening right now before the very presence of the president of Senegal, Macky Sall, the protest that is going on?
Yes, it's rather unfortunate. You know, I've said it severally. All the various countries colonized by France, especially in West Africa, they have similar challenges. And that of Senegal is nothing different. And personally, I'm trying to wonder the type of civilization or colonization that France gave to them. You see them power drunk, see them, the government that they are to preside over is not doing well in any way. So it's a common denominator across all the African countries colonized by France. Maybe it's a coincidence, I don't know. So, but what is happening right now is a show of shame premised on the point that the president should have known or should have done better for a large number of Senegalese to come out en masse to protest against the manner and way in which Santo is treated. Tells us as people outside Senegal that the president ought to have done something better than what he's doing. The simple reason is this: you don't like opposition. That one is so obvious. Even the former president's son at the time was arrested alongside other opposition leaders. So the game point it makes is to ensure that there is no credible opposition party or leader. And the way the system runs in Senegal, you have 9 years. It came in 2012.
Yeah.
And 2019, the first term, is running the second term now. Altogether, he has done 9 years as a president. And he should have known better. The economy is not even doing well. Their currency, CFA, is exchanging 1 to 50. So 1 naira is like 50 for them. So Nigeria relatively is doing better. And the people are not so many for him not to control. If not that, there's an element of power drunkenness. 16.7. There are very few people. And the economy of Senegal, as we speak now, can never be classified because the economy is based on donors. There are different countries that help Senegal. So you're not doing anything inevitably. So what we'll see there is the president should allow a fair play. There must be opposition. He's 59 years old. Sonko is 46. So he doesn't like a young person challenging him. And now we're in the era globally that want to allow younger people come on board. Thanks to Nigerian president that just appointed an AFCC chair of about 40 years. So it's an era whereby we bring up younger people to retire us.
Okay, now you talked about Francophone countries, that is countries colonized by France in West Africa. They seem to be in one form of trouble or the other. I believe that in due course of this program, you're going to see a snippet of the protesters in Senegal. Is it a French thing or just the people? Because take a look at Mali, take a look at Ivory Coast, and now Senegal. I mean, is it the French thing in them, or it's just because they're Africans? That is why we are seeing all this squabble in these French colonized regions in Africa, especially in the West African sub-region.
One is left with no other option other to believe that it was a way they were colonized by the French. If it's African, one would have expected all African presidents to behave like this. But this is why it's so peculiar to French-speaking West Africans, especially. And there is every need for opposition. A lot of things were created in twos, male, female, and all that. So if all of us want to think in the same way, you are creating room for anarchy. Uniformity is not unity. One should allow some bits of opposition. In other words, your views may not necessarily become mine. And the simple implication of what he's doing now is making the Senegalese to have little or no respect for him as the president anymore. Though it may appear that it was stage managed, the rape incident, against divinity and humanity, nobody will want to condone with the crime of rape. And the way that turned out to be, you have charged him for raping a young lady at a massage center. Then why should that now become a national challenge?
We are coming to that. We are coming to that. The rape issue leveled against him, and of course, the breach of COVID-19 protocol. These are the two major reasons why, according to Macky Sall, Sonko was arrested. Yes. Accusations and counter-accusations. Now take a look at the protest. According to Mark, it was like, look, these are our sponsored protests to dent the image, or will I say the achievement of my government. Don't you think he's making a point? Before we go to the rape issue and the allegations.
President Sally, if he said a thing like that, is rather unfortunate. He is the one creating the problem for himself.
How?
He doesn't like any opposition. And Sonko is like the major opposition to his government. Because he contested earlier, he didn't win. And people so much believe in him. That is Sonko himself. So what Sally is saying is that the protest was stage managed against his government. That can't be true. It can't be true. I don't live in Senegal, but for reasons that are now becoming very glaring, someone was charged of rape. And there's a court to that effect. Sonko, last week, attempted to appear in court. The next day, policemen redirected him from the way he should have gone straight to the court to appear. They led him through another path. And Sonko said, no, I know the court. Where I'm faced now is the direction to the court. But the police insisted that I should go a wrong way. And of course, any sane human being will oppose the police at that point. And of course, Sonko tried to prove a point, and he was arrested. Why would you arrest somebody charged for rape and is going to court to address it, whether he really did or not? Of course, the first time the trial came up, he said to them they had no hand in it. And why is now a national challenge if the Salist government is not interested or is not having a hand in it? So what the president should have done, allow him. He's going to the court, he's not running away. He's going to the court, and on that day, they arrested him. So now make him feel guilty of not appearing in court as another case entirely, the rape, and another case of not appearing in court. And now, what do you now want the whole world to say? The protest is not far from oppression. That the Salist government is oppressing the Senegalese. And that oppression is becoming real and real every day. The young girl that was alleged to have been raped, she's grown up enough to go to court. It shouldn't be a federal, country-sponsored activity. Allow the girl go to court. Then allow the judiciary do their work. Not that, but it's as if Sonko raped the president, as it's sounding now. It was just a citizen of Senegal. I'm not saying a rape case is justifiable, but there's no proof as to speak now as to whether Sonko committed that offense or not. He first appeared in court, he said he did not. And now on his way to court, after the court had adjourned, on his way to court, he was arrested for driving in the direction where the court was. The police wanted to drive in a different direction. So as a major opposition leader, Sonko thought of it. Is it a plot to make me not appear in court? So he tried to oppose what the police want him to do.
All right.
And on my way to the court.
But is that a resisting arrest?
That's not, he was still arrested.
Yeah, of course he was arrested based. That's one of the accusation levied against him. You choose not to happen for his magistrate. Talking about the court right now. Yes. Is that not resisting arrest?
He didn't resist any arrest. The case, he was arrested initially.
Yeah.
The case went to court. It appeared and the matter was adjourned. So last week, it was last week, about Wednesday or so, that he was going to the court that he was arrested.
Okay.
That he was asked to drive differently in a direction that will not lead to the court.
All right, now you just hold on. I want to go for a break. When we return, we'll continue with the discussion because Mark Sally is on edge right now. It's like fire is burning in the city and he's not finding it funny. Some persons in that protest, they've lost their life because of clash between police and protesters. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
This generation, you have responsibility to hand over a decent society to your children, because your parents handed over a respectable society. How come you are supervising a society that has no respect for the elderly? You are supervising a society that has no respect for values? What kind of the next generation of parents are we going to have? The kind of training our parents gave to us. We, these young generation parents, we have failed our society. We have failed. We have over-pampered our children, and they have gotten rotten now. They believed in that time that a good name is better than riches. But unfortunately, you, this generation, you now believe that riches is better than a good name. Where did you learn this from? Where did you get that spirit from? Where did you get this attitude from? That was not what your parents taught you. Why are you teaching your children now put money ahead of a good name? And it is because of this, corruption has eaten our society. Everybody is looking for money, regardless of where you get it and how you get it. Where did you learn these things from? This generation of people 40 years to 75, you have failed your children. You have failed your grandchildren. And it is time you rise up, correct the mess behind you before you exit this world. Your parents and my parents at that time will ensure that you go to school. They will arrange to get an extra teacher. But there is no way my parent and your parent will find a way to buy a question paper and for me to study. There is no way my parents and your parents will ever do that. But how come you have been doing that? You go behind the scene, you buy question papers for your children and they get the A+ and you celebrate them. You are teaching your children how to do evil and corrupt society. This generation is responsible for the mess we are in. Society is the product of the family. Society starts from the family, and from the family to the community, community to the larger community, and to the entire nation. So if today we say that the society is rotten, it means that the home is rotten. If we say society is corrupt, it means the home is corrupt. The problem of our country is not only because of government, but it is because we've had irresponsible parents who have destroyed the values and the foundations of our homes.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you just joined us, this is Africa Discourse. And with us here in the studio, I've introduced him, yes, in absentia, so to speak. Don't you welcome a very vibrant youth political analyst. He's in the academia, human rights activist, God sent Osagie. Welcome to Africa Discourse.
Thank you, Phil.
Sorry,
my pleasure. Good afternoon, yes. My mentor, Domo Baba.
Yes, sir.
Speaking our indigenous language.
All right. Now, while you were absent, he talked solely and, of course, extensively on his perception on Mark Sall. From what he said he's the man that doesn't like opposition. Is a man that really don't want to hear what others have to say about his government, especially if it will lead to a protest that is happening right now in Senegal. Do you share the same thought and opinion?
Anyway, if you are to go down memory lane, you will have no option other than to come to a similar conclusion. Because remember, in 2019, there is this allegation that about any time the current president noticed a strong opposition, there is a framework. You know, history has it that there were two major strong opposition ahead of that 2019 election that were jailed, sentenced, what have you. You know, their political power became weakened, and he was able to have a landslide victory. So going back in memory lane. So if you are coming from that, then you currently now picture the current mass protests, majorly perpetrated by the young people, the young Senegalese, to be very precise. You discover that it is sad to say that the current president seems to be giving us a picture of somebody that is insecure. All right, because somebody that is insecure. And again, besides talking about Senegal, is also very important. We use that like a springboard to also look at other Africa countries. Over time, just a few times from now, we've seen the unrest in Algeria, we've seen the unrest in Congo. I think Ghana had theirs in a few months, I was reading something like that. Even our own Nigeria, the NSAS protests and all of that. And majorly the young class. It tells us something. For me, going through a little research about what is going on in Senegal, it shows us that we don't really have a growing leadership, across board. This is African discourse. I'm trying to use it to interpret the whole of the African continent. Because in leadership, you can grow old without growing up. Okay, it's sad to say, but it is the reality of our current generation. That even though you see a lot of knowledge, a lot of frontline research work, a lot of development, advancement in the academia, yet we are still being governed by people that are insecure, people that cannot stand the true meaning and tenets of democracy. I mean, stand for democracy for what it truly stands for. Because if you look at the constitution or the provision of a democratic society, a peaceful protest shouldn't become something that a sitting president is afraid of. But today, what we see is the different narrative. When there is a mass protest, we start seeing incumbent presidents across Africa trying to manipulate such protests. That is exactly what is going on in Senegal. The allegation laid against this song.
A song,
There's this popular, is an allegation though, but there's this mass revolt. No one is against allowing the court to do his own law, his own job. Nobody is against the court. If he's guilty of the rape allegation, like I heard my honorable lecturer here talking about it, then he should go in for it. Okay, but when it is not perceived to be a pattern That is the reason why I had to go into a brief history. So for the average Senegalese, is a pattern, is a way to weaken any uprising opposition. Because mind you, some also have in mind to contest for a third term, which the Constitution does not really provide for. But part of what it tries to do is to amend the Constitution, to influence it, so that it can have a third term. Now, you cannot those that were...
Okay, come back to you. He talked about manipulating the system. He talked about also framing up seemingly strong opposition, so to speak, in Senegal. Is this a pattern in Senegalese government, or is it a pattern that is common to Africa countries being governed by Africans?
Well, it is a pattern, obviously a pattern in all the countries so far, as far as French colonization has been in West Africa. The fear of a president is not a thing to even say publicly. You are a president and you are afraid. I don't know how to express that. It should be a commoner that should be afraid. The Constitution says a term is 7 years. Then you have done the first one. You are doing the second one. You are scared. You are just 2 years old in the second term. Now you want to now amend the Constitution to pave way for a third term. So the president, sir, has opened the door of suspicion. Anything you say about that president right now of Senegal, you'll be right. Because his fear is baseless. The fear is such that he has an ulterior motive to further drag Senegal into a state of poverty, a state of insecurity. So far, they've lost 5 lives, young people. And the person you're afraid of, to me, if I were to be in his shoes, I would have called Sonko into my office. Young man, what do you think I'm doing that is wrong, that you think you can do and that you can do rightly? 2 of us will discuss. And once we are truly discussing, we'll not know that, okay, if Sonko is right, Mr. President can bring him into his cabinet if it's for the good of the nation of Senegal. If it's not, young man, you have not been there, so you cannot dictate to us what it should be. Look at the reasons you have put forth now over solving an issue will create more problems. So Sonko will now realize that, oh, that's true, Mr. President. I was thinking so outside being the president, but now I've seen the true situation. And by that, there will be peace and tranquility in Senegal. Down memory lane, that has been stuck in trade. If you have an opposition, of course you always have. As your home front, as a family, there's opposition. Because if you ask to vote between father and mother, if you have 2 children, so let's vote. All the 3 votes will not go in one direction. That's an opposition. If you are going to achieve anything in life, there's room for opposition. Even in physics laws, law of dynamics, thermodynamics, there are oppositions everywhere. You can be opposed. If there is no opposing force in this world, we can't stand. There's an opposition. So we should just come to terms with the natural laws of opposition. That even if he's going to have a 3rd term, some persons will still contest against him, as maybe they belong to other political parties. So opposition continues. So you should come to terms with what opposition really means. You don't understand opposition. If it's to be an opponent, means you want to kill him. No. We have different perspectives towards addressing a matter. Yours is to the left, his is to the right. All of us will end up at the same point. As they say, uniformity is not unity. We can have different views.
It's not unity.
It's not unity. We can have different views about a thing, but we are heading towards one direction. Like this studio we are in now, the bricklayer has worked here, the carpenter has worked here, all manners of persons have worked here, and now we have a studio. But if you are biased, like the Senegalese president, we say, no, this studio will be built by a bricklayer. The other ones, the microphone made of bricks, your glasses made of bricks, everything made of bricks. I don't know, they will head nowhere.
Right.
So you should allow opposition to show forth, let him hear them out. If really that opposition is worth having sleepless nights over.
Okay. All right, I'll come to you. Now, you talked about protests. You talked about peaceful protests. Let's take a look at that clip. It turned violence, and that seems to be the fear of any person in power, especially in Africa. The protest being hijacked. I think that was the reason why Macky Sall chose to do what he did. Put in soldiers, put in police, scatter, push them back to their various houses, talking about the protesters.
Okay, I think you just mentioned a word. You see, why will a peaceful protest turn sour? You know, it doesn't just happen like that. There are always what we call triggers. Okay? Now, if you look at the way report suggests, the manhandling of the protest by security forces. When you send, because according to the provision of the Constitution, although I'm not a lawyer, ordinarily, if you are even going to go on a peaceful protest, you are even supposed to have the escort by policemen. Just going with you, ensuring that laws and orders are not broken while you do your thing, and from there you go home. But when the policemen are not perceived to be biased, to be coming with another interior motive, now they struggle.
Now, how would they come with an ulterior motive? How would you know?
No, you just made a statement. You said push them back, send them back to their houses. Now, these are people that are already on a course, and you're already using the use of force. Let me tell you a little take I had with a certain state governor immediately after the NSAS protest. I had the privilege to be with the state governor on a Zoom meeting, and I said to him, one of the wisdom you display was that even though you declare coffee, there was no use of force. Because at that time, the tension was already heightened. People were already desperate. I gave it to the governor on that point. I said, because there was no use of force, yet you declare coffee. Even though people were breaching the law of the coffee, they saw policemen walking about, not really harassing them, but seeing them alone made people walk faster, going to their houses. Why? This was just immediately
after the protest.
Now, what I'm saying is that there's need for a lot of sensitivity in government. There's need for a lot of sensitivity in approach. Okay? What leads to a violent protest is approach. And sometimes it is deliberate. I also want you to know that it's deliberate from the part of the government. Because when a protest is not perceived to be violent, the government of the day seems to have the backup of the international community to say, you must stop it because it's not violent. That's the reason why, if we were to take our country as a case study, there were all kind of allegations that they were, hijack of the process. You know, some people even went forward to say the process was hijacked by the government in power. These were all allegations anyway. But what I'm trying to say in essence is that in every protest, it is the duty of the security agency to manage the process in the heartbeat of peace. So I blame the security authorities for the escalation because they failed to perform their constitutional duty, which was to provide cover for peaceful protesters, not violent protesters.
Okay, I will come back to you, God sent. Now, you talked about third term. Macky Sall, he hasn't mentioned anything about third term. He's just there doing his own thing. He never talked about tinkering the Constitution to give him the power to vie for a third term, unlike other presidents that are of the same origin, talking about the Francophone countries that want to vie for a third term. So why the hula baloo about third term?
Yes, the extension of tenure is a process. This is the second year out of 7. So it still has 5 more to go. And there are insinuations already. It doesn't have to get a microphone to announce to the whole world that I want a third term. The handwriting is clearly written on the wall. And if you check closely, one of the things Sonko is after is to ensure that a third term bid will not materialize. Senegal has, they call it district or so, 11.
Yeah.
As we have states, they have 11. And at this point, they have representatives. Okay, ours is bicameral, theirs is unicameral. So they have people in their house of assembly. The whole thing is coming up gradually. So the best way to handle such a man, gaining from experience from other Francophone countries, that let's just nip this in the bud before it becomes a tree. So what Sonko is attempting to do, that the President Sall is not happy about, is how did he get to know his intentions? The other opposition parties, it's not a two-party country, the other opposition parties, but Sonko seems to know so much about every move that the president wants to make, about every step that the president wants to take. So that's why there's a clamp down on him. The rape allegation becomes baseless because of the actions of the president. That it was framed up. I'm getting convinced about that.
That was a frame of a setup.
Yes, setup. So if a girl was raped at a particular business center, a massage center, how is it now the president's concern? Is it that bothered? If it was that bothered, what would have dropped the economy? Was that bothered the health facilities were improved upon? The one girl, it's not as if, I'm not trying to say the girl's life doesn't matter, the life matters. But how come suddenly the president got interested if it was not a setup? So now, on his way, he was arrested after that allegation. They went to court. So the second hearing or so, while he was going to court, that the police stopped him. So my colleague here said the police should do the needful. They can't. They take instructions or orders from the president. The police themselves, they know what the matter is. But in the military or paramilitary, you have to listen to the last order. If your superior says this, whether you agree or not, that's for you to debate at home. But while you're on the line of duty, you have to accept and obey that directive given. So that's what the police did. The road to the court is a straight road. And you're not asking the man to go round. He said, no, I'm not already. The court is sitting at social time. They said that those appeals fell on deaf ears. That because he refused to go the way they asked him to go, he was under arrest. As a politician, as a human rights activist, he wanted to stand his ground. No, infringing on a fundamental human rights. I know that I've been there before. And this is the direction, this is the way to the court. And you're asking to go the other way. And that's, you're preventing him from appearing before the court. And thank God Sonko mentioned such things. Because what the court would have ruled would have been, he ran away. And the part of the constitution that will now deal mercilessly with Sonko for not keeping to the timing given to him in the law court.
All right. Okay.
So that was exactly what happened. We don't try to resist that manipulation, not to resist arrest. It is arrested. After he was arrested, they want to tell them that I was going to the court, and the route you're asking to go through now is a wrong route.
Okay.
So he was arrested.
Okay. But if you take a look at the crowd right now, the Senegalese protesting, one thing on their lips is free Sonko.
Yeah.
They don't talk about the economy. They don't talk about any other thing. Majorly free Sonko. Don't think that, according to what Max Sally said, these are truly sponsored protesters. After all, a protester will come having the country situation at the back of the mind. But it's not saying this, but also free Sonko, and forget, like Dr. Atlee said, Senegal is actually in serious debt. They rely on other countries to survive. Should it be the basis of protest?
If you look, first of all, let me quickly say that what brought about the free Sonko, when he was charged to court, nobody is saying free him. What is bringing about that is the sudden arrest, which has already been perceived by the populace to be a deliberate attempt to put him under. You know, that's the whole story that is playing out. Nobody would have come on the street if he was being tried in the law court fairly, without the involvement of the presidency. We have a lot of rape cases. I'm sure that it's not just only Sonko case we have in Senegal. We have a lot of rape cases that possibly are going on in different courts of law. Why the big deal about Sonko rape case? You know, now these are the underlying issues to ask. And beside that, Winston, these people are also campaigning or protecting against the economy. There is also part of their cry is that there is mass unemployment and poverty. If you are to read the template comprehensively, that is also part of their concern. You know, now the point is, we must grow in African leadership. We must migrate from this leadership that tends, I call it a crush mentality.
Crush mentality.
It's a crush mentality among most majority of African leaders. If you are not with me, crushing. And that is not healthy for democracy. And that's the reason why in a certain symposium, I said we need to begin to judge the basis of what we really mean by the word democracy. Because for all I care, if you look at the context of practice of many African countries in a so-called democratic setting, It has so much that has to do with the military operation. You will see a sitting president that we use, like my colleague have said, use the police because it's directly under their command. Use the DSS, use the army, all in a bid to get what he wants. If Sally is not insecure, why fighting? You are just 2 years into your administration. You have another 5 years. Now that is enough to arouse suspicion that his third-term bid is really something that is fighting towards. Why fighting? We have had a lot of civil society activists in Africa. Let them be doing their activism while you continue to do your work. Change the narrative. Change the economy. Try to see how you reduce the debt burden of the average Senegalese. And people will be happy with you for that. But when you are not performing, people have a right to speak out. People also have a right to association. In every constitution across board in Africa, people also have the right to association. People have the right to say, hey, I align with the ideology of Sango. So everybody does not really have to be in the camp of Sally. That is the beauty of democracy. We may all not believe the same thing. We may all not preach the same thing, but we have the same goal, the overall development of Senegal. And that is exactly what we are looking at. When people start suspecting a government, they are bound to go the extreme.
Okay.
That's currently what we are seeing, and the international community also have to be careful.
All right, now talking about the international community, we just can't help but to talk about Ecowas. They've been talking on this particular matter. Even our beloved President Buhari sent them a message: take it easy, watch your temperature. We don't want to see any other form of disturbance that may lead to bloodshed, because according to them, Senegal is almost at how would I put it now, almost at the center of imploding or exploding, depends on the angle of viewership. Now, what do you think ECOWAS should do in this regard?
Yeah, it is becoming nauseating to see that Africa, the only continent that is the poorest in the world out of other continents, and we're still having some teething problems that would have been resolved so mildly, so easily. But thank God ECOWAS has waded in. I'm sure AU is on a standby. UN is watching. So if ECOWAS can quickly come in now, first to free Sanko, he has to be freed because he has a case to answer in court. So he has
Dakar.
He has a case to answer. You have not allowed him to be through with the case, and you have arrested him. I don't know what, maybe you should have read law, would have asked that question. He was on his way to the court, you arrested him. I don't know what they call that in law. So he has not been properly interrogated as to whether he committed that rape case or not. So what happens to that case now? Is the case over? So the West African president, they should come into it now, that you take the case one after the other. The case of rape, is he guilty or not guilty? Once a court of competent jurisdiction are going to adjudge him along that line, then you go back to the second one of not obeying the police, of having anti-COVID practice. That becomes another thing. So it's not true.
Because that is one of the allegations that is not following COVID-19 protocol.
The allegation about his arrest now was also a thing that was framed up.
But if you take a look at the protesters, many of them are putting on face masks. They are not. They're on camera now, they're on video, no face mask. Except a few of them, very few of them. The rest are marching, and Saudis are saying we are fighting against COVID-19. Why would you organize people to come break the rules and regulations governing COVID-19 prevention? So the COVID is of no effect right now. Say so.
Me. It's of no effect because you have created a problem. And the people now are not in the right frame of mind. They can be excused. You can't be wearing your face mask and be eating. So now the situation they found themselves in is such an embarrassing one that their own lives are not even secured. You have accused somebody of rape, and the man was arrested, charged to court. The second or third hearing, the next is arrested. So the anger of the people now is not just because Sako was arrested. They just realized, it's a sudden reawakening, that this has been the pattern. What has brought the awareness to this point now is a sudden realization that we just realized that this has been the pattern. Any major opposition is clamped down, and this is the pattern. So the protest now can be tagged, this is the pattern.
This is the pattern.
Can hashtag it, this is the pattern.
Okay.
So it wasn't Sanko that asked them to come out.
Are you sure Sanko that asked them to come out?
Sanko is under police detention.
But see, he has followers.
He has followers. Did he call them?
All right, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you shortly. Now, still on ECOWAS and of course the crimes of Sanko. You know, measured by just 3 of them talking about resisting arrest, forgetting to come to court or didn't go to court at all, and of course COVID-19 violation and the rest of them. How do you think ECOWAS should come into the situation? They've been talking, but it's like they're just talking, nobody's listening.
For me, Winston, if you want to go by history, I don't have confidence in ECOWAS. I don't even have confidence in AU.
Why would you say that?
If you want to go by history, if you want to go to different African countries, what you see is Senegal. It's just a replay. You can start naming the names of the African countries. It's just a replay. What has happened in my country as a leader? I give you a phone call and tell you what you should do. It's just a replay. You see, for me, I really wish there can be a law that checkmates when democracy is really being broken. Like, what I mean is, I don't know if maybe the lawyer was here, he would have been able to put it properly. But what I mean is this. You have a 2-year, 14 years to serve. For 14 years, what do you want to contribute that you have not contributed?
Okay.
Now, it's not only Senegal. If you can recall, 3 presidents away, we had the same struggle in our own country here. I think, was it in Congo or one other African country, also battled with the same case?
Now, Cote d'Ivoire. We have talked about that, yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's always about...
Burundi also the same to the Nkurunziza. It's like, you know...
The problem is...
Alpha Conde is also there in the group.
Let me borrow again from John Maswe. Everything rises and falls
on leadership.
We have a crop of leaders that believe Africa is their birthright. So they can do with Africa the way they like. That's why when I told you, for me, I don't have a confidence in ECOWAS. It's because they are just going to talk so that the public and the world will take note that they spoke. There's not going to be any stringent action, even though people are dying. We have seen it before in different African countries.
And don't forget when ECOWAS was mobilized by Nigeria to go do some job, and they did it very well.
Let me also remind you, Winston, that if you look at the case of the immediate past president of America, you know, it was a case that showed the kind of traits we could have in an African president and the way the democratic terrain reacted to it. Did you follow up all the public analysis on Donald Trump until he was finally, let me use the word, forced out of power? See, for me, Donald Trump was a case study for me. I saw when democracy is democracy, when the majority can have not just their say, their way. I saw when the people can stand and say, hey, for me, I am a fan of Donald Trump, but I'm talking about the true context of democracy. I'm talking about when people can believe that this man have gone across board and this is what we insist must happen. And at the end of the day, that was what happened. How many Africa can replicate that? We have a problem of greed. We have a problem of ownership mentality. Someone thought that because I contributed some way, somehow, to the independence of this country, so this country must remain under my bondage. That's the reason why today, if you go across Africa, you will notice a trend. Why you can suppress an opposition, you can't touch a former president. It's a cycle, it's a cabal, and it's a satanic, it's a satanic association.
All right.
Where some people are seen to be so powerful and more powerful than the system. You know the reason why I'm saying this? To come to a conclusion. Why will a sitting president be meddling into an issue that is purely a court case? Okay, now that shows you how lawless we have become. And again, I want to sound this as a word of advice to African leaders. The youth are not sleeping. There is awareness. What we are seeing across Africa is, I want to tell you something, because when I started saying some of these things before we have the answers, they said I was a prophet of doom. I said it's not about being a prophet of doom. It's about putting the indices and the cards on the table and seeing what will happen. The time is coming in Africa that the citizenry will start suffocating some of their political leaders. I am not wishing it all. I'm just telling you, should this kind of trend be allowed to happen, there's going to be a time where citizens will mob politicians. Because people are gradually being pushed to the walls. You see how the selected few live at the expense of the majority.
All right.
Mass poverty, indebtedness that my fourth generation will never recover from, yet we are still borrowing.
Okay.
You expect the youth and the young people not to be angry. You expect them not to support Sango. You know, so
all right.
Anybody that will be a voice of liberation is the side that we take at this time.
Thank you so much. And that is your concluding comment. You're going to have the last take on this discussion. Do you think this protest will have an impact in Saleh's government?
Yeah, a major impact in a negative direction. Because your second year, your second tenure should be something that the people of Senegal should have been applauding. But no sooner did they vote you in to a second term than you started showing some traits that made the electorate to regret voting you into second term. So what I think the president can do now is to quickly, without reservation, let go Sanko. Let Sanko face the charges against him. So if he's able to overcome that, let it be. Whether it was stage managed or not, the court relies on evidence. So once it's proven beyond reasonable doubt as to whether he committed the rape or not, let the law take its course. While the president be charged with the responsibility of proper governance of Senegal.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate a wonderful analysis. Let's see how Sanko and of course Saleh will really perform when we talk about this rumble. It's about Sanko's how will I put it now, supporters versus the government of the day led by Saleh. Accusations and counter-accusations being leveled at each other. How do you think Senegal will cooperate? We're talking about a population of less than 20 million. Yeah, less than 20 million, and they're having this squabble. Ecowas is talking. AU want to step in. Can you really trust these bodies to enforce peace in that country, Senegal? We'll do it again, God willing. Bye for now.